Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Easy English Talk Daily.
My name is Emma.
And I'm Jack. We're really happy you're here with us today.
Before we start, a quick reminder for everyone listening. If you enjoy learning English through real conversations, please like this episode and subscribe to our channel.
Yes, because when you subscribe, you don't just support us, you support your own English journey.
Today's podcast is a little special.
Yes, very special. Today's episode is made because of a request from one of our subscribers.
And if she's listening right now, she will know exactly who she is.
Thank you so much for sending your request. Honestly, we love it when you tell us what you want to learn.
Exactly. This podcast is not just our podcast, it's your podcast too.
So today, we're talking about something very small but very powerful in English.
Yes, 3 tiny words, but they confuse almost everyone.
Be, been, and being.
When beginners hear these words, they often panic. They think, oh no, grammar.
But relax. Today, there is no grammar stress, no rules on the board, no boring definitions.
Just conversation, real life, easy English.
And by the end of this podcast, you will feel more confident.
Not perfect, just confident.
And confidence is more important than perfection.
Always. Okay, let's start very softly.
Yes, slow and easy.
Jack, let me ask you something.
When you were learning a new language, did you feel scared to speak?
All the time, I was afraid of making mistakes.
Same here. I remember thinking, what if I use the wrong word?
What if people laugh?
Exactly.
And many of our listeners feel the same way. So if you're listening right now and thinking, I'm not good at English.
Let me stop you right there.
Yes, stop that thought. You're not bad at English, you're just learning.
And learning takes time.
Now, let's come back to our 3 words, be, been, and being.
They look similar, they sound similar, but we use them in different moments of life.
Not grammar moments, life moments.
Let's start with the easiest one, the word be.
Be is like a base word, a starting point. We use be when we talk about something general or something that is not fixed yet.
Can you give us a very easy example?
Of course. Real life example. I say, I want to be confident in English.
That's a great sentence. You're not saying you are confident.
And I'm not saying I was confident. I'm talking about a wish, a goal, something I want in my life.
Exactly.
So, be is often connected to dreams or advice or instructions.
For example, a teacher says, "Be quiet, please."
A friend says, be careful. And your mother says, be kind.
These are simple ideas, very common in daily English.
Let me ask you something, Jack.
Go ahead.
If I say, I want to be happy, is that correct?
Yes, perfect. Simple English. Very natural. No stress.
Now, listeners, think about your own life. Say it with us. I want to be.
Maybe successful. Maybe confident. Maybe better at English.
That's be.
Okay, now let's move forward slowly.
Very slowly. No running. Now let's talk about our second word, the word been.
Yes, been is usually connected to the past, but not just any past. Been is about experience, something that happened before.
Can you give a very simple example? Of course. Real life example. I say, I have been tired today.
That sounds very natural. You're talking about your experience earlier today.
Yes, I felt tired before, and that feeling matters now.
Let's give another example.
Okay, I have been to New York.
That's a very common sentence. You're not saying you are in New York now.
And I'm not saying I will go in the future. I'm saying I experienced it before.
Exactly.
So, been often means I was there or I experienced it.
Listeners, this is very important. You don't need to remember grammar names. Just remember the feeling.
Been equals experience, life experience, good experience or bad experience.
For example, I've been nervous speaking English.
That's a very honest sentence. Many listeners feel the same way. But now they're trying, they're listening, they are improving.
And that is something to be proud of.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about the third word.
Yes, the most interesting one. Being.
Being talks about now, something happening at this moment or something happening around this time.
Can you give an example?
Sure, I'm being honest with you.
That means right now, in this moment.
Here's another example. The child is being very quiet today.
That means today only, not always.
Yes, just today.
So, being is temporary.
Exactly. It can change, like moods, like situations.
Let's compare two sentences.
Okay,
He is quiet.
that sounds like personality.
Now listen to this. He is being quiet.
That sounds like right now, not forever.
Exactly.
See? No heavy grammar, just feeling.
Let's slow down again.
Yes. B is for dreams, advice, and ideas.
Been is for experience and the past.
And being is for what is happening now.
Simple.
And remember, you don't need to master this today. Just understand it and use it slowly.
Even one sentence a day is enough. Before we end this part, I want to say something important.
Yes.
Making mistakes in English is not shameful.
Not at all. Staying silent is worse because language is for speaking, for connection, for confidence.
And you're already doing great.
Now, let's talk honestly. These three words, be, been, and being, confuse even confident learners.
And this confusion doesn't come from grammar books. It comes from fear.
Yes, fear of sounding wrong. Many people tell me, I understand English when I listen, but when I speak, my mind freezes.
And many times, be, been, and being are the reason.
Exactly. They look small, but they carry time, feeling, and meaning.
So let's slow down. Let's understand them like humans, not like students.
Let's start again with be, but not like a classroom rule. Let's think about real life.
When do we use be in daily life?
Usually when we talk about hopes, advice, or future situations.
For example, imagine someone starting a new job. A friend says, just be confident. You'll do fine.
Here, be is not about now and not about the past. It's about mindset. It's about intention.
Another common example is polite advice. Please be on time tomorrow.
Or try to be patient with yourself.
So be is simple, but very powerful.
It's open. It doesn't lock you into time. Now let's move to been again.
This is where people usually panic.
Yes, because been connects the past and the present. It tells a story that started before and still matters now.
Think about your own life. If you say, I've been busy this week, you're not only talking about the past.
You're explaining how you feel now.
Exactly.
Or when someone says, I've been learning English for 2 years.
That sentence carries effort, time, and consistency.
Now, notice something very important about the word been. Been never stands alone. It always needs support.
Yes, it needs have or has.
You don't say, I been tired. You say, I have been tired.
Exactly. Ben always wants a helper.
And emotionally, Ben often explains a situation. It answers the quiet question, why?
Why do you feel like this now? Why is something happening?
Now let's talk about being.
This one is very interesting and very human.
Yes, being often talks about behavior, especially temporary behavior.
Imagine you meet a friend. They're usually happy and cheerful. But today, they're very quiet.
You might say, "You're being very quiet today. Is everything okay?"
That sentence doesn't judge the person. It only talks about this moment.
Exactly. That's why being feels emotional. It notices change.
We also use being when something is happening around us. For example, it's being difficult to focus today.
That means today feels different. Now let's connect all three words with one situation.
Good idea.
Imagine someone learning English. First, they say, "I want to be fluent one day."
That's a goal, a dream.
Then they say, "I have been practicing every night."
That shows effort, experience.
And finally, they say, "I'm being more confident when I speak now."
That shows change in behavior.
Same person, same journey, three different words, three different meanings.
And when you understand them like this, they stop feeling scary.
They start feeling useful.
And most importantly, they start coming naturally when you speak. And that is exactly what we want.
Now that we understand be, been, and being, let's talk about something very real. Mistakes.
Yes, this is where most learners panic.
I see this all the time. People know the words, but when they start speaking, their brain freezes.
They think, wait, is it be, been, or being? And then nothing comes out.
And that fear is worse than the mistake itself. I always tell learners, making a mistake in English is not a crime. It's a sign that you are trying.
Exactly. Silence is more dangerous than a wrong sentence. When you stop talking because you're scared, you stop learning.
Let's look at a very common mistake. People often say, "I am been tired."
Yes, I hear this a lot.
That sentence is wrong, but it's a good mistake. It shows the person is thinking about past and present together.
So let's fix it gently. We don't say am, we say I have been tired.
Because been needs support. It needs have or has.
Think of been like a word that doesn't like being alone. It always wants a partner.
I love that. Been is social. It needs company. Here's another common one.
People say, I being happy today. Yes, I've heard that too. The idea is correct, but the structure is not.
The correct sentence is, I am being happy today. Or more natural, I'm being very positive today.
And notice something important. When we say being, we talk about temporary behavior, not permanent personality.
Exactly. If I say, you are being very kind today, it means right now, this moment.
But if I say, you are kind, that's your character. That's who you are.
Small grammar change, big meaning change.
Let's make this even more real.
Okay, real life English.
One person says, why are you being so quiet today?
That means today feels different from usual.
But if they say, why are you so quiet? That sounds more general, almost like a complaint.
Exactly. Being softens the sentence. It feels less attacking. That's why grammar is not just rules. It's emotion, it's tone, it's relationship.
I love that. English grammar is emotional grammar.
Now let's talk about confidence. Many learners think, I must speak perfect English.
But that idea is wrong, very wrong. Even native speakers don't speak perfect English. They pause, they repeat, they correct themselves all the time.
I do it every day.
Me too, and nobody dies because of it.
So when you say, I have been learning English, and you make a small mistake, don't stop. Continue to sentence.
Flow matters more than perfection. Communication first, grammar later. Let's give our listeners a small confidence exercise.
Great idea. Everyone listening right now, try the sentence out loud. I have been practicing English, and I am getting better.
That is a beautiful sentence. It uses been naturally, and it shows the idea of change without stress.
And if you say it wrong the first time, say it again. That is learning.
Remember this, English is not a test, it is a tool.
And tools are meant to be used, not locked away. Now that we understand be, been, and being, here is the most important question, Jack. How do people actually use these words in real life without stopping to think about grammar?
That's a great question, because in real life, no one says, wait, let me remember the rule. They just speak.
And that is exactly what learners want. They don't want rules in their head. They want confidence in their mouth.
So in this part, let's slow everything down. Let's connect these words to real situations, daily life, work, relationships, emotions.
Because English lives there. Let's start with be. It's the simplest form, but also the most powerful.
People often think be is too basic to matter. But actually, be is everywhere.
Think about advice, parents, teachers, friends.
What do they say?
They say things like, be careful, be honest, be yourself.
Notice something important. These sentences are not about time, they're about choice.
Yes, when someone says, be patient, they are not talking about the past or the present. They are talking about how you should act.
That's why be is often used in advice and instructions.
Let's imagine a real situation. You are starting a new job. Your manager might say, be on time, be respectful with clients, be open to learning.
No grammar stress. No tense confusion. Just guidance. Learners should remember this. When English talks about how to act, be often appears.
Now, let's talk about dreams. This is where be becomes emotional.
People say, I want to be successful. I want to be confident. I want to be fluent in English.
These sentences are not about now. They are about becoming.
Exactly. Be connects who you are now to who you want to be.
And that's powerful for learners. Because learning a language is a journey. When someone says, I want to be better at speaking, that sentence already shows hope. Now let's move to been. This word carries experience.
Yes, been tells a story about time.
Learners often get confused because been never stands alone. It always comes with have or has.
Let's connect been to real life. Think about how people talk about their day. Someone might say, I've been busy today.
That does not mean they are busy forever. It means the day started, things happened, and the effect continues until now. Now think about emotions. People say, I've been stressed lately. I've been feeling tired. I've been worried about my future.
These sentences are very human. They show duration. Not one moment, not 1 second, but a period of time.
And another very common use of been is experience. Let's look at a very common example with been. I've been to New York.
Or, I've been to that restaurant before.
These sentences tell us something important. You went there. You experienced it. And now that experience stays with you.
You're not saying when exactly, because the time is not important.
What matters is the experience itself.
That's why been is often used when people talk about life stories, memories, things they've done before. Now, let's talk about being.
This word is special.
Yes, because being often talks about behavior, and behavior can change.
That's the key word, change.
Let's imagine a real-life conversation. A friend says to you, "You're being very quiet today."
That doesn't mean you're always quiet. It means right now something is different.
Temporary.
Exactly.
Being shows something happening now or around now.
That's why this word appears a lot in relationships.
People say things like, "You're being rude," "You're being kind," "You're being too hard on yourself."
Notice how emotional these sentences are. They are not labeling a person forever. They are talking about a moment.
And that's very important. It makes communication softer. Saying "you are rude" sounds permanent, but saying "you're being rude" leaves space for change. Now, let's put be and being together in one life story.
Good idea.
And another very common use of been is experience. Let's look at a very common example with been. I've been to New York.
Or, I've been to that restaurant before.
These sentences tell us something important. You went there. You experienced it. And now that experience stays with you.
You're not saying when exactly, because the time is not important. What matters is the experience itself.
That's why been is often used when people talk about life stories, memories, things they've done before. Now let's talk about being.
This word is special.
Yes, because being often talks about behavior, and behavior can change.
That's the key word, change.
Let's imagine a real-life conversation. A friend says to you, "You're being very quiet today."
That doesn't mean you're always quiet. It means right now something is different.
Temporary.
Exactly.
Being shows something happening now or around now.
That's why this word appears a lot in relationships.
People say things like, "You're being rude," "You're being kind," "You're being too hard on yourself."
Notice how emotional these sentences are. They are not labeling a person forever. They are talking about a moment.
And that's very important. It makes communication softer. Saying, "You are rude" sounds permanent, but saying, "You're being rude" leaves space for change. Now let's put been and being together in one life story.
Good idea.
Imagine someone learning English. They say, "I want to be fluent."
That's be. That's a goal.
Then they say, "I've been practicing every day."
That's been. That shows effort over time.
And finally they say, "I'm being more confident when I speak."
That's being. That's change happening now.
See how natural that feels? No rules spoken, just meaning. Now, let's quickly talk about mistakes without fear.
Because mistakes are part of learning.
Some learners say, "I am been tired."
And we gently correct it to, I have been tired.
Some learners say, "I am be careful."
And we simply say, be careful.
And sometimes people avoid being because they feel unsure. But it's okay to say, "I'm being honest." "I'm being serious."
English is forgiving when your intention is clear.
If learners remember only one thing from this episode, what should it be, Jack?
That English is not about perfection. It's about connection.
Be helps you express who you want to become.
Been helps you share your journey.
And being helps you talk about who you are right now.
You don't need to rush. You don't need to fear mistakes.
Just keep speaking. Keep listening.
And slowly, English will start feeling natural.
If this episode helped you understand English more clearly, please like this video and subscribe to Easy English Talks, the English podcast.
We're here to make English simple, human, and part of your real life.
Bye, everyone.
See you next time.